So I'm going to be reading The Halo That Would Not Light. When, after many years, the raptor beak let loose of you, he dropped your tiny body into the scarab-colored hollow of a carriage, let you like a finch, wrapped in its nest of linens wound, with linden leaves in a child's cardboard box. Tonight the wind is hover, hunting as the leather seats of swings go back and forth with no one in them. As certain and invisible as red scarves silking endlessly from a magician's hollow hat, and the spectacular catastrophe of your endless childhood is done. So for my prop slash costume, since the title is The Halo That Would Not Light, I'm the Dark Angel, so basically symbolizing death, but in a more negative connotation, which is kind of like this poem in a way, but this was what I had. So I'm going to be using Soapstone to analyze this poem. So starting with the speaker is definitely someone who is witnessing either a friend or just a peer, their shift from childhood to adulthood, and it's very specific. So for the occasion, coming of age is obviously the occasion of this poem. Definitely the shift from childhood to adulthood, kind of the forcing of that. So the audience is, I would say, the person who is actually experiencing or undergoing the transition, the dramatic death of their childhood to their transition to the endless adulthood. But yeah, so the speaker is definitely talking to the person about like what they're seeing from their transition. So the purpose of this poem is obviously, as I said, to show the transition from adulthood or childhood to adulthood. But if you look on the bigger picture, I actually believe that the speaker is saying that during your transition, you have what you need to be prepared for adulthood, even though the raptor beak let loose of you. You're wrapped in the linens wound, which is going to prepare you and protect you for your adulthood. So for the subject is definitely examining the progression from childhood to adulthood, but he's also using a few different devices to explain the transition itself. And then the tone is honestly more hopeful and lighthearted than I expected. With the title, The Halo That Would Not Light, I would definitely expect it to be more on the dark side, but it with the diction and everything, the writer or the speaker is definitely more hopeful, kind of like encouraging of the transition from childhood to adulthood. So I see that in a few different specific dictions. Definitely the spectacular catastrophe, because usually catastrophes are not spectacular. So it's definitely balancing that out. And then talking about magicians, and magicians is definitely something more lighthearted. So now for the devices. As I said before, I definitely see a few diction pieces. So endless childhood, spectacular catastrophe, dropped your tiny body. So it's really just emphasizing how small childhood is compared to adulthood. And then I found a metaphor for the readiness of the person he's talking to that's going into adulthood, which is wrapped in its nest of linens wound. So basically, how I envision that is the raptor carrying the small child wrapped in basically these red scarves, as it says right over here. So the red scarves silking endlessly. So that's what I see, him wrapped in the silk scarves, which towards the beginning, wrapped in a nest of linens wound. So I kind of take that as the same thing, but it's really just showing that everything that you've gone through during your childhood is in some way or another going to prepare you for your adulthood.